Select Board to order. Our first item of business is considering additions or adjustments to the agenda.
I was gonna add Jonna O'Keefe's resignation from the beautification committee.
Okay. I believe 14 and 15 should probably be swapped. Arrangement order. Probably under select board issues or concerns, I will bring up another meeting that we should probably schedule. And while we're accepting resignations, I believe that we have another resignation to accept retroactively. Sure. CEDS resignation.
That's under
C.
consent agenda, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, see,
yes, it is. So under issues or concerns, I will add probably another meeting that we schedule.
May I add another resignation and two other agenda items, or ask to?
Sure.
One is accept the resignation of James Whitehill from the skate park committee. I should have been case of today. Another is to review and approve the sheriff's contract. I got that today. It went out in the email late. But the numbers in the contract match our budget and the language matches previous years where we had to do some custom language for jobs. We can do it now, or we can do it on the 16th. It just has to be done before July 1st, but I wanted to give you guys the option to do it today. And then the other is an agreement with the Boys and King for the Johnson downtown revisioning. That went out Saturday. I sent you guys that email. It is a $6,400 project that had the zero match, 5,000 from LCPC grant, the small grants for small growth that came to us, I think it was in September. That they applied for us and received it for 5,000, and then the remainder 1,400 was provided by the Vermont Community Foundation.
Sure.
I'm going to imagine that.
What you got?
Mine would be, there is a meeting scheduled for this Wednesday for the light industrial chemical part, with Monday Associates, etc. LCPC is asking if we could designate someone to participate in that meeting and our future meetings until we figure out what we're gonna do with CDS position, so it'll be a motion to delegate someone to attend.
Yep. Is that all the additions or adjustments?
The only item 9 in here is a broad category of interlocal signature delegation. It's a little more involved than that, and I will be asking the board to actually approve a job description, the job description, which I sent out to all board members. And
And the offer letter.
the offer, but which doesn't, I mean, that obviously would take a stab to be able to work with the same by all parties, but
So we'll adjust the title to job description and offer letter.
yeah, just
Any further? Hearing none. Invoices and orders are going around. Haven't heard any questions as of yet. Next up is public comment. Is there any public comment to be had? Carl?
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. I just want to say that I thought that Randall Zott did an amazing job. And I thought he was a great attribute to us. And I thought that he had connections that nobody I knew had. From his wife being, Senate Pro Tem's chief of staff on down. I am chairing at this time a new nonprofit. And we could not have gotten off the ground without. I don't know if you guys knew the kind of things he was doing in the background, but he set up appointments for us. He got us to meet people. He really got us together to get off the ground with what we're doing, which is we're gonna try and be the marketing end for this town. So I really hope that you don't take as long as we did from Leah, which was what, 12 years, some odd time, to get somebody else to fill his position, because I think it's really important that the town have somebody like him. I mean, we're not gonna get anybody like him, not with those connections, but well, that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Charles. Any other public comment?
I'll second that briefly and also say that the planning commission is in support of the visioning project that Tom mentioned.
Wonderful. Thank you. Next up, select board updates and or issues or concerns. Anybody have any updates? Okay, I had said at the beginning that we would, this is where I'd bring it up. I think with the departure of the community economic development specialist, which we're gonna accept a little bit later, I assume. We should probably schedule a special meeting to have a more in-depth conversation of that as a whole.
I agree.
And we have another meeting tomorrow already. Can we get a quorum of this board there? I'm assuming
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Mike's never missed one, so.
Well, it depends. I'm taking my wife to the doctor for this month, so I don't know what time I'm getting back.
If Duncan will be there, we'll at least have the quorum of this board.
I
Yeah, Uncle.
went through my emails. I never got the original email.
At least 2 weeks ago.
Maybe I just not.
Yeah, I know Rosemary sent it out. I got it. I probably didn't look for every select board.
Yeah, but I got into my junk mail and I never. Saw it went in there.
I can send you the original, but
That doesn't matter. I've got it on my calendar now.
okay.
But yeah, but thank you for the reminder, because that was good. Good the reminder.
What's the board's availability? I don't think we should really sit on this one forever. Thursday, Friday, next Monday, for a special meeting.
Next Monday is open for me.
When they works for me.
That's the trustees are meeting on Monday. But we could. Do we think there'd be a lot of people from the community that would want to attend? I just want to make it available if they do.
Is it an executive session or?
It's for discussing the position and if it changes or anything.
I mean, with the position that Randall had,
Yes,
and that you're talking about this week.
we were talking about Monday next week, which will be a week from today. Is the back room, we've run 2 meetings, I don't think. We would really be,
We can go downstairs too, to the big table.
yeah, which is what Rosemary had said. And I just don't know how many people from the community will want to be here, and I don't want to be moving in the middle of a meeting if we can avoid it.
Trustee starts.
How late do their meetings usually go? Can we start at 7? One topic meeting, that's it. In the back room, that way people could. It's a little goofy, but they could get through.
Do the trustees set up like this or they?
Do you think that'd be an overly inconvenience for them, Rosemary? I think we were good.
They get a little testy, I think.
You know, it's back door.
I
think you could meet downstairs.
You don't think a lot of people wanna be there, Lois?
Well, I'm guessing.
Alright,
No, there's not a whole lot more room back there than there is downstairs,
There's
right?
one ring downstairs and that's kind of a thin wall.
alright, downstairs, if we're doing it downstairs, 6:30, our regular time. Monday. Special select board meeting. CEDS. Planning, we'll call it,
6:30.
6:30, yeah, Monday the. No. Good, any other select board issues or concerns?
I just want to state one, I think we owe, Evan a vote of thanks. He went out Saturday on his own time. And posted the agendas so that we could basically have this meeting tonight and have it be a properly duly warned meeting. So thank you, Evan, for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, I did not tuck the resignations underneath it because they're additions, it just felt weird. Under the consent agenda items, there's approval of minutes for May 5th meeting, which was reconvened on May 12th. And the May 19th meeting, as well as approval of Paul Warden as a representative to the Lamoille FiberNet Board. As well as accepting the resignation of Randall Zott as the Community and Economic Development Specialist. There is planned purchases under consent agenda, but are there any?
Nothing.
Okay,
Let's put it there just in case.
okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I was
You
enter-
made the motion.
Huh?
I was
You made the
entertaining a
motion.
motion.
I thought you said.
Second.
Before we actually go to the item, are you gonna allow discussion?
Yeah.
Okay, just really quickly, I wholeheartedly concur with Charles' opinion. I was sad to see Randall submit his resignation. He's very talented, did a really good job for the community. I think we should extend our thanks to him for that. The other issue is, I read the May 5th meeting minutes, but I have not read the May 19th minutes, but I'm sure they're good.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, and the ayes have it. Now we have an addition, which is accepting the resignation of John O'Keefe
Mhm.
from the Beautification Committee.
Yep.
Somebody like to make that motion?
I'll move.
There's a motion.
With
Accept-
thanks, yes.
Okay,
Second.
that's Peter's motion, Duncan seconded, further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, and the ayes have it. Next up is accepting the resignation of James Whitehill. All those opposed, and the ayes have it.
The first addendum, wasn't really. You just kind of threw that in.
Rosemary, can you sweep us away?
Technically, that wasn't part of the motion.
To date, we're at 81.33%. That's the budget. In June, there is a couple of large capital equipment notes that come due, the two largest ones. And the all the trees for over $165,000. Capital equipment fund. Did receive a little bit of money from the library grant, you know, $34,687.
And that,
I don't know what you mean. You just gotta, direct deposit that. No,
It comes into a portal and it says Department of Library, so we're gonna have to. Either ask specifically, we'll probably reach out to the Department of Libraries to see which invoices. They approve, and then so we can mark them off as paid.
okay,
But there's no indication of what those amount, we don't have a single invoice for 34,000, so,
yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't line up with anything we got.
yeah.
And have all of the requests for reimbursements that we have invoices for been submitted to them and with a request.
They've all been submitted, there's been a few requests for true ups where the utility work specifically. We paid on an estimate so that have them come, now they have to true up and then we either owe them or they owe us, one or the other. And the library would not reimburse those. They totaled about 180,000. They wouldn't reimburse those until we have the true ups for actual work.
So that's Green Mountain Power, Village of Johnson.
Consolidated in detail. We received fire department, sheriff, library, and I think the village is really close. It's actually, they should probably have it this week. But
Anything else to highlight, Rosemary?
You think we're likely to get those before the fiscal year?
we could reach out tomorrow.
because it might be.
I mean, they're already there. We should at least get 261,000 from the building mover. That's the building's there, it's done, the work is performed, we should get that back.
Why is that? In our expenses, 394.
That's how much we've spent to date on the project.
That's architects and engineering firms.
Well, engineer, I have as 51. I have to date as 592,000. The building will, is there more stuff? Underneath that one line, it says building move 394,454.37.
Are you gonna put the foundation under that?
Well, leather construction and foundation.
Right.
Yeah, which is-
Utilities.
Okay, so it's. I was just asking out of curiosity, because the
So-
260 and the 390 were,
Oh, yeah, 260, 180, or. But there were some other incidentals in there that probably is what led that to 384.
okay. No indication of pilots coming back? Not gonna be the dead horse. What else would you like to go over, Rosemary?
Looking practice, I give you a list of the current year people. Grand total for this year, 217,291.
When is our tax sale gonna be? When?
December or early fall.
Oh, great.
And we got. We collected 97.9% of this year's tax. Which is. I think I'm proud of the past 2 years.
A little bit better than last year.
And
Of course, we have more tax, that means more bills.
when that number is fairly consistent over time.
Nice to get it to 100%.
Good luck.
We've seen bio properties paying their taxes, bio
Wow.
properties.
So,
We'll receive those anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
there's several apartment ones on that list, it's kind of crazy.
Is it for the public, who got like a form-based code permit? Is that public or,
Yeah.
do you remember who got one? Just like curious.
Home-based code.
Permit?
Yep, and
No, maybe 2.
I think we're at 6 total.
Also,
The most recent one was the library, and that was in March, I think.
Oh, okay,
they wouldn't have waited it when we.
okay.
We would ever set a fee.
I thought we did.
$100.
$35.
That was 100.
Yeah, so it says 100.
Was it? Did we actually set a fee?
Remember when I first started?
We did up at the
Remember I came
college.
to you and I had like a permit letter. It was one of the jobs that Carl had started and then passed off. It was like my second meeting by myself. We did a permit, like a notice of acceptance, like here, post this, and I think you just accepted the bylaws as for the fee. Or you accepted the application, maybe that's what it was, because I had to draft an application. And in that is what you accepted, which was $100 fee.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very. We had form-based code for 6 years and we hadn't had. All right.
Right. Anything else, Rosemary? Thank you very much. Next up is the road foreman report. Is that in the packet? We don't have that.
I didn't get one.
Great. Next item up is the library relocation. Tom, any updates on that?
Really exciting. I got excellent video from Peter today of the walls are being poured, which we're exactly 2 weeks out from our deadline to have the library set down. So I've been in contact with the building movers and I don't know how we did it, but we put out a bid with 2 months and we got the foundation under that building in time to not have any penalties. Pending everything goes well. It's really amazing that went through. But the walls are being poured today and they need 2 weeks to cure or 3,000 PSI, depending on what comes first. In the week of the 16th, the building movers, I think, are planning to come and set that back down. So that's pretty exciting. The next piece is the architect, I think is really close to putting together. We have bid documents for civil. Mechanical had some final questions today. And we should be really close to a full bid set to go out to bid for a GC. Hopefully I'll have that draft for you guys soon. To put that out, so maybe by July, hopefully the first meeting in July, it'd be nice to get that out to the public fast. So we can get a GC into that job and let the town take a back seat.
So I'm assuming because they're pouring the foundation walls that the core test came back. Meeting minimum requirements.
Yeah.
3,000 PSI.
3,000 PSI for the footers and walls until, or 2 weeks of your time.
So did the core test come back?
I believe so. I checked in with Dale before I left. He took cores. So
That's what they told me, that they had come back.
And they met the minimum.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And there also expecting, I think with the course they took today. That they'll probably actually. Come close to 4,000 PSI,
Then what?
4,000 PSI. On the pouring today is what they're expecting to get.
Oh, okay,
Yeah. So it should exceed what we need.
that's interesting, with the walls are more than the footings.
I don't know what that
Yeah,
number
okay.
was. But on the ones that came back. I know they met the spec, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
The footings were oversized. We could have spent $13,000 for an engineering study to then tell us what size footing we need. And rather than spend the $13,000, I asked that what was the cost difference in oversizing the footing for a worst case scenario. And it's not 13,000, so the footings are oversized to meet worst case scenario to avoid that 13,000 engineering survey. Which would have delayed that project by however many months to put it up. You know, et cetera, bid, et cetera, so. Not only are we saving money, but we're also having a more secure building.
Anything else? Exciting stuff. I guess we'll be seeing. More movement soon when we have bid sets.
Really excited for that.
Next up is the highway department 5th employee topic. Was there a write-up in report for that? You said that this is brought back up because
Came to my attention, board didn't make a motion. I wasn't at that executive session, right? And I believe, can't remember if it was Adrian or Peter. Asked me to put it on the agenda that it should be a formal motion because. We're changing the course of the budget based on what we put forward to the voters. Not only we're changing the the needs and what we expected to, whether we had 4 or 5, but we're also changing the staff of the committees for the year. So that's why. You know, as we talked on the phone. You guys put it on the agenda to make it a formal decision of the board to go towards a highway department as opposed to a public works department.
I guess if we need to make a formal motion, would somebody be prepared?
I move that we table this for further information. We asked about a month and a half ago from the town administrator for information on comparable towns. The size of Johnson and the mileage. And the number of employees that they have has not been forthcoming, and so. I think we should wait until we have all that information. Before we make a final decision. So that was my motion.
I'm gonna second it and throw something else into the mix. We're gonna be talking. On the 9th about the CDS position. I was gonna wait until then to throw this out there, but I'm gonna throw it out now, because it seems timely and appropriate.
Hang on, is this further discussion on the motion? I think,
I'll second the motion and we can, then you can go to discussion.
I just wanna. I'm gonna call that motion, we can discuss it, or
Yeah.
we're cool with that, we all cool with that? Okay, there's a motion, a second, is there further discussion on the motion specifically? All those in,
Are you gonna
Did
do
you?
discussion?
did you have discussion on the motion?
I think we should talk about this now and,
Okay, have at it, I just didn't wanna make it confusing, so.
or, well, I just meant like we should not table it and we should talk about this tonight and make a formal motion on just deciding if we wanna have a public works employee or not.
Okay,
So,
You can vote no.
I guess you might as well continue.
yeah, so The reason I seconded the motion to table is I think. That I am going to recommend at our meeting when we talk about what to do with the CDS. That we hire a. Neutral third party. I hesitate to even use the word because I can see Mike cringing already, consultant. To evaluate. All of our positions in town. We've got, so the fifth employee could be one of those, we've got. Rosemary's treasurer position that we've got to deal with. Whenever Rosemary tells us we've got to deal with it, finally. I think there are. Numerous opportunities for us to think about. Doing things. Perhaps differently, or at least having our current employee. Levels and job descriptions evaluated. So that's why I'm supporting a motion to table, is I think it would be a really valuable part of a discussion to consider the need for a fifth employee, and we can sit here and talk about it all we want till we're blue in the face. But if we hire a third party neutral person and they make a recommendation to us, then I think that has a lot of value and we should consider it.
I think with the transitions coming next March especially, we have shared employees that may or may not need to be visited. We have the town clerk, we have the treasurer, we have the town administrator, number of hours, we have the CEDS. We have a fifth employee, we have so many things on the table. I think what you're planning is spot on. And I think any information that you need me to get, I think, this is kind of a new subject, changing gears to what Mike is. I think I need more, when I started to do the process, you can see, I've been building out these spreadsheets. But what I'm running into is, I don't know whether I should I be totaling up when I look at highway miles to highway employees, we're just talking about road crews. And for that, it's pretty clear that we should just have 4 guys for the do just highway. But I think if you say, Tom, I want to know highway department to highway department comparison. But when you throw in the mix of 5 guys, when you have 5 guys over 40 miles, it looks high. But what they do over those 40 miles is far more than just take care of the roads. So I think I also need to do another build out to make sure I can do public works size versus public works size, because you're trying to have me compare apples and oranges, and it's not working. But I think what you need to say, the fundamental decision to support what you're asking really is, do you want a highway department or do you want a public works department? And there's no wrong answer. If you want a highway department, you need 4 guys done, like simple. You want public works, well, maybe we take maybe we stop paying the $60,000 and we take over the sidewalks and the drains, and we hire a 6th guy and we take over sidewalks and take over the village responsibility. Like, these are big questions that need big solutions. And I think, that was way pie in the sky, far right field, I'm not suggesting. But I think there's a point there that you need to first decide your path. Public works, do you want, and then let's compare. Or highway, and then let's compare. And I can do both, but I think I need that fundamental. And maybe you want me to do both, and I'm okay with that too.
Mhm.
In either case, I think the decision to hire a 5th employee is likely premature.
I agree with that too.
So at our next meeting, we would just talk about the possibility of hiring a consultant, or?
Well,
That might come up during next week.
yeah,
Okay,
I think it'll come up, during next week's meeting, whether or not it's even, you guys may say that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Which
I like that idea.
is fine, but
I cringed when you said consultant.
That's how I feel when people say it.
That's not a big kind of cheap one.
well, I could have said highly paid consultant.
Oh, there you go. We can talk about that.
It is, motion's on the floor, so.
Yeah, the motion is on the floor for tabling the 5th employee for now. That's what this motion specifically is. It's not yes, it's not no, it's I'm reading it as get us the data so we can make a data driven decision instead of a feelings decision, but that's just my reading.
That is
Well, when-
always the best.
One reason that I wanted us to revisit this tonight was because I don't think we did a good enough job considering the impact of where we were headed at the last meeting. In terms of the impact on boards, committees, volunteers, etc. So this would give us an opportunity to consider more deeply.
We need to consider all impacts, right?
Yes.
You know, I think what was heavily on the board at the last meeting was the cost impacts, right? After the buyout properties happen, you're looking at a pretty good spike, and if we spend more on everything else, we're gonna go to the voters for a double-digit tax increase likely. That's
Excuse me,
My
Mr.
head.
Chairman. Can everybody in the audience hear Evan?
sorry, I'm speaking towards Peter because Peter was talking.
I mean, I'm sitting right next to you,
You
and
are-
I can hardly hear you speak.
Coming from the guy that said he didn't wear his hearing aids tonight.
Mike, I have, you can borrow one of mine.
Would anybody like me to repeat what I said? I'm fine with repeating it.
Didn't you say Mike is always right?
Sure.
He doesn't want his hearing aids in.
This is not a yes or no, I guess. This is a delay for data. Has everybody said their piece on that motion?
Just maybe a point of order. You can't have a motion to table a motion if you don't already have the motion.
We're tabling a topic.
Topic. Okay, got it.
I said I made a motion to table, what did I say? Table the discussion?
Yeah.
Motion to just not talk about something.
Well, apparently,
Yeah, that's true. I have a fifth employee.
do we need a motion to reiterate what we decided last meeting? Apparently.
Well, somebody could have made a motion to hire a fifth employee.
I ask two things. One is just for my direction. Do you want me to just do highway department to highway department? I think that's only relevant if we stay with 4 employees, or do you want me to do public works as well? Like public works, they're 2 different things, you know? We're asking for 2 different departments to be compared, and I don't care whether you want me just to do highway or just to do public works or to do both, but it's hard for me to make an apple and an orange look the same, and it would be easier if I had 2 separate.
It might be. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn. It might be easier to do highway to highway. This is where I'm sitting, and I think last year we had our time sheets redone and they were tracking their hours for committees anyways, so we could just.
Is that still being tracked, Rosemary?
So we could just compare highway to highway and say, crap, we need highway to highway plus 200 hours or what have you. Still going by a metric here.
And then there are 2 issues that I think the board, by delaying, that we should be very mindful of. One is, we have an agreement with Dale Percy Inc. where we sell our gravel, that is for $6 a yard. And it goes to Dale Percy and we buy it back at $13.75 a ton. We bought all the sand we need for next winter already. We already bought it, $86,000. We budgeted, I believe $50,000 for that sand, and so we're $35,000 over budget because we anticipated having 5 guys to haul. So that means to process in our plant, our pit, and haul it to Percy's before July 1, the end of the fiscal year. That's not happening. So I just think just know that we're gonna be over 35,000 in that line. I'm not sure the offset of not paying the 5th employee for the however long it was, I guess 2 months anyways. But looking at the budget.
Yeah, you said winter sand.
We budgeted 50,000 We budgeted 30. We budgeted 35.
Yep, that's what I was getting at.
So.
So we overspent by 50,000 or we overspent by 35,000?
You know, this was a phone conversation I had with Jason today, and those are the numbers that I put. But, and then I built a spreadsheet out on our expenses. So it looks like we've overspent by, 45,000. And the only way we can get that back is by selling gravel. We do have about 30,000 in offset by not paying a fifth employee, so it sounds bad, but it's not terrible because we also haven't been paying payroll and benefits for it'll be almost 3 months. But just be mindful, you should know that, and then,
So I'm unclear on, we have the gravel, I mean, we have the sand. In the sand pile in our possession,
I already paid for it, but we had those.
so we have not given him an equivalent amount of. Gravel out of the pit
Yes,
to create that sand pile.
that's right, during mud season, when we could not work in the pit, and it wasn't work to do, that's when Jason hauls. All the winter sand for the next year, because it's all paved roads between the garage and Percy's, so it's like the prime time for him when he can't do anything else. To keep all 5 guys, keep everyone busy so they can haul a ton of sand quickly. It's a very efficient way to do business, but when he expected to also have the time to do the pit, he didn't have time to do it. And so again, because there's the offset of not paying payroll. It's not a terrible hit, but it's something to be mindful of by delaying the decision, that we might get that money back and it might show up in the next fiscal year, but it means this year we might overspend at that. Just because if we end up going with a fifth person, or you guys could also give a directive to say, hold off on all projects, get that sand out of the pit that's all the 4 guys should do for the next 3 weeks. That can be your directive as well. It's another method we could do to try to mitigate that.
We're going down a rabbit hole. And I'm getting confused with my simple brain. That you are saying that we overspent by 45,000. This is the first indication that the board's getting it, but there was a plan. But we just received a budget status report that says we spent 28,000 on sand, which is $7,000 short of the budget. So where is the 50 some odd grand? Were we not billed for it? Are we not paying it?
There's a big drawings.
Is it in this orders, which
Yeah,
are
so-
with Peter?
Rosemary and I Jason and I went through the invoices,
So-
highlighted them. We separated out plant mix from winter sand. We were not gonna pay winter sand until we knew that no cash was gonna stay in hand, because we were just gonna dwindle down that amount owed based on selling gravel. Now that it's clear that we're not gonna sell gravel, Rosemary's paying.
But we have an actual invoice.
It's right there, yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 invoices from Dale Percy. One's for 43,700, one's for 13,700, and one's for 29,100. Exactly what they're at on. Oh, yeah,
But
yeah,
if
payroll.
between now and the end of the fiscal year. I mean, he's sent us an invoice, but what we actually have is like a credit debit
Yeah.
situation going on.
So I see 2 options, right? One is you guys that give the directive to Jason and say, you know what, we owe the money, rather than pay the money, get in the pit and get as much out of there before July 1. So then we don't have to have. That way we don't have to take that hit on this fiscal year.
How many cubic yards are we talking about, do you know, roughly?
The 40,000 divided by. $40,000.
What'd you say? They pay us 6, we pay them 13?
Give or take.
Yeah, that's how you make money, isn't it?
Well, they have to like crush it. and
Yes,
scrape
I
it.
know.
Yeah.
Was our agreement that they could escalate the cost on that? Have to look back at that. $6,600 yards. 7,000.
Divided by 12.
14 yards of buffalo.
Can they actually truck 14 yards?
Yeah, the new Viking bodies have a higher, that's why they use metal sideboard instead of wood now.
The 6,600 divided by 15.
247 loads. So if we had 3 guys hauling. You can do a load, say a load an hour, I think they can do it faster than that. But if we did 8 hours, say 6 loads per guy per day, that's 18 loads a day divided by 18. We're looking at 13 days, 2.5 weeks worth of work, and it could be faster, so. I think with your directive, just know that the other projects aren't gonna happen, but they could get it done, but that's why I'm bringing this to, if you're not gonna hire somebody. I think there were 2 guys that are ready to go tomorrow, if, you know, so if you're not gonna hire someone tonight. Then my suggestion would be give the directive to just put the debt away, like, you know what, we had an agreement, finish the agreement out and then get to summer projects. That would be my recommendation to the board.
And when you say projects that they're doing right now, are we talking basic grading and road maintenance?
Grading and ditch work. We'd probably have the excavator for the remainder of this week because it's rented. We'd return the excavator and then have his guys hauls for the remainder. And when you have vacation sit in there, it's probably gonna be everybody all hands on deck until July 1.
So I thought part of the reason that we cut the deal with Percy was so our guys, can they be in the pit
Yeah,
without
absolutely.
their certifications?
We don't need Misha, so that's using our backhoe and our loader to load our trucks. The backhoe to stage and then the loader to load.
So we put off. I honestly don't know why we would be doing ditching right now as opposed to putting up the sand pile anyway, but.
I mean, the sand pile is already put out.
I know, but doing the making sure that the gravel happens. To give us equalize the debit versus credit issue. Which, I mean, we've got invoices, if we pay those invoices, we're gonna be overspent. If we don't, it's money that doesn't actually exchange hand, the value of the dollar's still there. Because we're,
So
doing it, but.
You're saying not to pay those and then make them whole?
I'm saying that we should have Jason prioritize hauling the equivalent amount of sand that's needed to get us so that we don't have to pay those invoices out of cash.
Okay, so. In that case, you wouldn't pay them. Or you're saying that you should pay them and then get the money back once they fulfill the obligation? How do you wanna go about that?
we would just have a credit probably towards next year's sand. I'm sure they would just hold on to it.
Okay. I just would not pay it
I would just soon not pay it too.
and then just
the credit.
give them in kind what they expect they're gonna get.
Yeah, that was where I was
That's what I would do.
hoping we'd be. But I don't know if that makes sense to.
Well, we could rescind their orders because the majority of the board has signed these director's orders.
Right.
And the ramifications are that summer projects would be delayed until that's done, which is, that's the ramification of not, that's what you've been talking about for the last, 6 weeks about not having a 5th guy. Is you might need more directive of the board to say X or Y, and here's an example. And if there's no wrong answer, it's just we either pay, or we're either gonna be short 10,000 because we're plus 30 by not paying payroll, but we're negative 40 from the gravel, so we're only really need to make up 10,000. Anything over 10,000 is we're gonna have to be net positive on this year. So we just have to, but if that's your directive, and if you say, guys, let's hold off on summer projects, get net positive, let's do it. And then come July 1, they can start doing whatever they're doing. They can get right back at it.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and there's a month between now, I mean, almost a month between now and July 1, so if they can get the majority of that work done in the next 2 weeks. Or within 2 weeks.
Yeah, and if they don't get it all done, we're still gonna be okay because we didn't pay that fifth guy's employee.
Right,
I would make a motion in that
Take
case.
it.
Well,
Wait,
we're inside a
motion.
motion.
What-
We haven't called the motion to table this yet because it's gone down
Oh,
a
yeah, okay.
rabbit hole.
Yes, it certainly has.
You want me to call that one?
I'm so lost in the weeds, like.
Right now, we're still on the motion to table the discussion for data. Right,
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
alright, all those in favor signify by saying aye,
Aye.
all those opposed? You guys didn't vote, are you
I'll be an aye.
abstaining? Okay, you're an aye, alright, you guys have it.
Okay,
Help yourself.
now we can make a new motion.
Can we,
If
can we
that's
start
what
to
you
get
want.
action on this, cause we've talked about this so many times, I just want like something in the works, can we have Tom looking into consultants? Quotes
That-
for that, like, can we put something?
Well, we haven't even decided if we wanna
Yeah, but I can,
actually do, I mean, we can,
We probably wanna know the price to decide if we wanna do it, so can't he just like start seeing how much that would cost? Like roughly?
we're technically on the fifth employee. The
Let's-
consulting thing was kind of brought up under CEDS. As well as the fifth employee,
it's
I
pretty
see.
broad, yeah.
it's broad. Was your question answered, Public Works, highway to highway?
I actually don't have a clear answer, but I'm happy with the
Alright.
Why?
Does the board agree with what I said, which is highway to highway? And the timesheets for the highway guys
I'm
on
just
the amount of
wondering,
hours that they work for committees?
I don't know if it matters if we might be doing consultants, so I don't want Tom to spend energy on it. And we might be going a different route.
Do you think? You and Rosemary think we have a reasonably good idea of? How faithful do we think the highway employees were with assigning their time and the timesheets to projects?
On things that aren't grant allocated, I think that my guess would be they're pretty fudged. You know, cause there's no real ramifications for it, or they're really tight with grants, with FEMA, with. And those I look at and question, but you know, when it comes time for like what they did. For X project or Y project, I haven't really. No, it just goes into the wind, I don't look at that to be honest. Maybe that's my fault, it could be my fault.
So there's no ramification, but it'd be awful handy. Right now,
I would love a second line in the budget, when they put in their timesheets into the payroll software, it tracks it for us rather than. And you could run a report.
They've still gotta put it on a timesheet for it to get tracked to the right budget category now.
Let's do a budget category.
yeah, because
Okay,
like their payroll is
They're
all
not
under
doing it
one
now.
line. Right
It's
now,
gonna matter.
okay, so
So,
we're answering Tom's request.
yeah,
I've
and
given my opinion, Adrian's given hers, would the three of you weigh in? Tom's question was, do we wanna do a comparison? Highway to highway, or public works? I said highway to highway and. The time. I assumed was accurately tracked,
That's the responsibility of us is the highways and. Highways and records, roads records, infrastructure, everything else is extra. You know, I'm really worried about the buyouts and what we're gonna lose in taxes and. The tax burden is enough on everybody in this community as it is, and the fifth employee, it was just gonna increase it. I would like a road crew or highway to highway.
If I could make a comment. Well, it seems like concentrating on highway to highway, you're ditching. Any idea of public works? And it really concerns me that. If you look at what this town would look like. Without. What hundreds of volunteers have built here. This would be no place, there'd be nothing here. And that's a big part. Town supporting what we do as unpaid people who put a lot of their own money into. Museums, historical society, a park, you know, the arboretum, tree board, we take care of the sweet trees. We got beautification all over the place, and rail trail is working on economic development, all of that is worth money. And I understand where you're coming from, because you're right, we're losing taxes and we're in a critical stage here. But if this town is gonna really grow, we need your help. Excuse me, I hope you keep that in mind.
I know I can pay my taxes, but there's a lot of people in this community that struggle to pay their taxes. And I don't wanna be a part of putting more burden on those people.
I understand, I'm one of them. On the other side, but the other side of that is if you're gonna live in a town where you want people to come to it for one thing or another. We have no business and we need people who want to start business.
Hey,
Okay.
Sorry, so
Can I make a quick response to that?
What?
Can I make a quick response to it? I totally get you, and I think maybe that's a question that is worth asking people at town meeting. My concern and question is, if we simply say we're gonna have the highway department meet all of the requirements of all the committees all of the time, that the way things used to get done was people got together and volunteered. You know, I had a request the other day from somebody wanting to know if I would donate my backhoe and labor. And I would have gladly done so, but my backhoe's down. That's how things used to get done. People would volunteer their labor and equipment, and a lot of stuff got done. And the reason I was asked was because this individual was told that the highway department can't do it anymore. So how do we balance the goodwill and value of people willing to volunteer to do stuff to get things done against simply going to the highway department and saying, send the backhoe and loader and truck over? And I don't know the answer.
I can only tell you from my experience with conservation and tree board. There are some things like installing the paths at the arrow. It wasn't something we could do. We don't have front end, we didn't have the materials. We didn't have the money. And I wrote grants for that, but you need a grant. Grants have specific needs. And it is not building paths of the Johnson Arboretum. So sometimes we just need to make the next step that we can grow on.
That's a good point though, because you guys hired a private contractor to dig the well and put in the system. We didn't use town employees to do that.
Right.
piece.
But grant money.
That's right, and there are lots of times when these projects are grant funded or, could be. Could be seeking donations of people in the community to do it. It's. I just raised the issue
Yeah.
because I don't want to be totally reliant on simply having all the committees automatically go to the highway department and say, do this for us.
I don't think they do that now.
I was just gonna say, I think that's a mischaracterization of how it's happened in the past. We put an idea out there to Jason and say, hey, we need this done whenever you can. He doesn't say, well, we'll be right over. He says, yep, well, let me think about it. I'll figure out how to fit it into what we're doing now when it makes sense. So I think to say that the boards would suddenly all say, we need you over here now and expect him to jump is.
No, I'm not saying now, I'm just saying that in the past, when we knew the highway department wouldn't be doing it, things still got done.
with volunteers
Yeah.
that are
That's the-
dwindling precipitously. That's the other
Yep,
reality we have too. I mean,
Yeah.
your point's very valid. But it's also valid that people just aren't volunteering like they used to.
Well, I think when we do have volunteers, when they're like younger volunteers, they don't have the money of younger volunteers back in the day to have like equipment to do these bigger projects like they did in the past. I think it's just a different time. Yeah.
I think basically what I'm getting out of this is part of what I came tonight with was feeling that we have yet to really consider the repercussions of 4 versus 5. Not just budget wise, not just grand list, which maybe is gonna drop, maybe is not gonna drop, but also if we don't have the ability to help these groups, you know, we need to wrestle with the implications of that, and I don't think we've fully done that yet. But I also think that can be part of our conversation, the bigger conversation that you're suggesting with the highly paid consultant.
yeah, and I. In my way of thinking, there may be need for that. Person to assist the communities, but it might not be what we traditionally think of as the 5th employee for the highway department.
Mhm.
It might look like a different animal
Mhm.
altogether.
Mhm.
And I don't think we've really had the opportunity to.
I don't think we've ever
But that,
established
yeah.
what role, the difference, we had a 4-guy highway department. And then we went to 5 guys public works, and I'm not sure whether we had 5 guys first. Or whether we went to public works and then had 5 guys, or 5 guys then down the road called it public work. I don't understand that timeline, but I think we probably, to keep public works too, it would be beneficial to define. The priorities of public works and what the difference is between a public works department and the highway department. But I think there is, my observations are that we have a highway department that does 99% highway. And then does public works when they fit it in, and we have amazing roads, like we really do, I mean, you can look at the MRGP, we're killing it. But, you know, I think there is probably a lack of clarity from the board down to say, okay, if you're public works. You have to do X, Y, and Z as well as highway. And I think that if you do go 5 guys or 4 guys with a public works component. Having that clarity would be very helpful, so that way the volunteers know what to expect, the highway department knows what to expect. And it's, you know, more accountability for a little bit.
I know you just did that for illustration, but I doubt it's 99 and 1.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Rosemary. Do you remember when the 5th full-time employee was discussed? Was that,
First time in second.
was it 2017? 16? Some point.
When were you discussing it when you were still the town administrator?
Well, no.
We talked about it for a long time, well, past year.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what the large justifications were?
Guys having time off in the winter time. And summer time for their vacations.
In operating trail,
Yeah,
That's what I remember was a big part of it.
It's in the winter time, they were on call 24/7, with no.
No break.
6 months. Okay.
I think the way the union contract is now, the 4 remaining. Or the 3 guys would still be on call. But our road foreman probably would have to be on call every weekend. Just because our union contract does have a rotating, is that? So that we would have to renegotiate what that looks like. It's not saying it can't happen, it just, you know, something. We're gonna be entering that next fall anyway, so.
This spring, this fall,
Is it up?
I mean, it's up December 31st of this year.
That's gonna be coming up here right away.
Well, that's what you said. Did you still have something?
Well, I was gonna throw out an idea, but it may have just been shot down by the discussion there, the justification. I was gonna say, has anyone thought about a part-time fifth employee for just the summer when the public works projects might be in full swing? It sounds like the previous discussion was to help offset.
There was a part-time.
It was a part-time winter person.
It was winter.
It was winter, not summer.
All right, this has been a deep rabbit hole and we still haven't given Tom a straight answer. He asked us what we want. And we owe you a straight answer. You said you weren't clear, right? I'm working to get you a clear answer here.
If we're gonna,
Somebody else has got to weigh in, or we're just gonna say abort that mission altogether.
if we're gonna do highway to highway, I think we should do some public works to public works.
So you want both, okay?
Don't argue with City Hall.
Don't know what that means.
I honestly don't know how you can do. Public works in the context of. You know, those towns that have public works generally are dealing with. Water, sewer, sidewalks, storm drains, etc. They are not dealing with what we consider the term public works, so. I don't know how you can do an apples to apples comparison there either.
I'm struggling because true highway, you can do highway to highway tomorrow easily, right? Where the duties of the highway department are defined pretty much by state standards. If you want money for your roads, you have to make roads look like this. And so all highway departments are pretty clean, you know, based on your number of class 2 and 3 roads. What we have is we have like a public works light. And to look at other public works departments, there's some towns that have 12 guys in public works. And their population is only 5,000 for that reason, right? And so I don't really know how to do this well. It's because we're in this. I kind of joke with myself that we're going through some growing pains. We're not a big town yet, but we're getting there. And this is like the awkward teenage years where our arms are really long and we're tripping over ourselves. Yeah. And there we have to go through that middle part. And I don't know what that looks like yet. And maybe we're not ready to be there, you know, but I think that's where I can't find there's not a good analogy.
I think I'm gonna agree with Duncan. We're not that big of a town really to have the public works part of it. You know. You're good, you had a point about the 10 cents. You know, that's something we've talked about ever since I've been in this town. About that same situation you're talking about. You know. So
So you're,
that's something to look into too.
so you're saying highway to highway?
Yes.
Are you saying highway to highway?
I would say highway to highway, but I also wonder if Adrian doesn't have a point. Are we creating work for Tom that
He said he could
is
do
gonna
it.
be answered if we decide to. Hire an efficiency consultant?
If it's, I mean, you said it was kind of easy to do highway to highway, public works was the wrench. I say if it's easy, just do it and it gives us data.
Highway to
It
highway.
looks like you already started, right? So.
It is, I just have to put in everything, I mean. I compiled,
But maybe you felt like resistance since you couldn't do the fuller picture.
yeah, like I didn't really know what to do because you could take this and sort. What I started to do was sort by towns by population, and I was looking at towns 3,000 to 5,000, or 4,000. And then I started going in to see how many. And some people call it road crews, some people call it highways, some people call it public works. And you're looking through this VLCT data, there's not really a clean way to do it. And so if you only have 2 public works and no highway, then your public works is your highway department, right? So so there is some, you know, interpolation, is that the word? But I have to figure that out, the best way to do it. And so when I started to get in there, what I was finding is that there's actually not really a good match for us to follow. You know, like I think Hyde Park is probably a great match but they're just highway, and I think. You get over, and then you have to look at class 2 roads versus class 3 roads. And there's a direct correlation between the number of people you have versus the type of roads that you have. And it was. And I just didn't know how to represent it without skewing the data, but now it's clear, it's highway to highway, and we're just. If they touch other stuff, I'll call the town clerk and ask how many people are just working on the roads. And that's a lot easier.
Okay. Are we ready to move on from the 5th employee conversation?
Yeah, but
Let's hope so.
do you have enough direction? Do you need direction as to what Jason should do with the gravel?
He's got a hammer,
What's that?
he's got a
Get a
hammer.
hammer,
Get
gotta
a-
get on it.
I mean, that deficit would have been nice to know. I think
Well, I
some
think.
of us are on our heels
Do we
going,
need a formal motion to have him concentrate on
I mean,
getting the gravel or
so I think.
concentrating on gravel?
I think, no, I'm just gonna tell them to do that. I think a big problem in not communicating this was. I wasn't here last week, A, but B. I didn't know I wasn't gonna be in that executive session 2 weeks ago, where I would have brought a lot more information to the table. Because I didn't bring it there, and then you said, okay, no 5th employee, then you're like reeling on that. That decision, right? And so when you're reeling on that decision, then. I now have to like, okay, meeting with Jason, well, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? And it's not just that, we also have a boom mower to figure out, how are we gonna hire someone to handle the mowing? How are we, there's like, this is one small piece of the ramifications. And it's showing up today, it's showing up in the orders, but there's a lot of other things that I'm still trying to figure out how to help them get through without going over budget, and that's. The reality is, we're not really gonna go over budget because we're not paying for payroll, but. Those are the things you have to sort out, how to help manage that time. And I've only had 2
And-
weeks or 1 week really to sit down and sort that out.
did you get an answer to your question?
Is everybody here comfortable with asking Tom to ask Jason to spend 2 weeks in the gravel pit and clear the debit credit situation?
More than comfortable.
Sure. Okay, glad that we got that cleared up. But, back to the original conversation, that executive session had nothing to do with the highway 5th position. That executive session that we went into was for employee surveys solely, and we exited that and talked about this. But we didn't have like the Zoom and everything, so I get it. None of this data is confidential anyway, so just send it, have it running in a negative or whatever. I think. And needing a motion to deviate from the budget. I'd probably have to talk to Dave Williams on, but I think the only number that we're actually tied to. Is the amount to be raised by taxes.
Yeah, we're,
So,
if we spend less, we're not gonna be in trouble.
Right.
We didn't go over a formal. Motion on several things that deviate from the budget, but. Okay,
I mean, we could have not had the 5th employee in the budget and then hired the 5th employee
as long as we didn't go over.
in the, in the current budget,
Yep.
yeah. So. I don't.
And while we're talking about the surplus from expense. For employee. The board probably needs to consider and revisit highway capital plan. I don't know if there's a way to divert some money. From salaries, I mean, we spent. How much over on that last truck?
30,000.
Where that. Is driving off a cliff here at some point if everything keeps going up, so it's just something to consider.
That's what's happening next.
Yeah, it's already happening this year. Alright. Next up's in the industrial park, and what I had added. To this line at the beginning under additions was light industrial park. Representative delegation, and that was an item that Duncan had asked to add. Did I add that in the right spot?
I think
not
so.
to attend a meeting, so
Yeah.
would you take us away on that?
Yeah, I sent an email out to all board members, which was kind of forwarding a memo from Melissa Manka. They're meeting on Wednesday. And I just think it's really important that we keep the project going, that we don't lose momentum, so I would ask the board to. I volunteered to participate in that, but I think. There should probably be a formal motion on the part of the board to delegate someone to attend and participate.
I'll make a motion for Duncan to attend those meetings and
I'll second.
be a representative.
Motion and second, further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the ayes have it.
Abstain.
Duncan abstained.
And thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
very
thank you.
much. With regret. Next up is the interlocal signature delegation, job description and offer letter. Again, Duncan, I think we're just gonna lean towards you because you've done a lot of work on this.
Yeah, so there's, I guess. Perhaps 3 action items I'd be looking for. One would be to approve the amendments to the job description. The second would be authorization for someone to sign the interlocal agreement and the offer of employment letter for assessor services. And in addition to that, I would actually make a motion. What the heck is it? What else?
You had it in the email.
I had it here. My motion would be to approve the interlocal agreement by and between the towns of Johnson, Hyde Park, St. George, Berkshire, and Sheldon for shared assessor services serving the 5 municipalities for a term beginning July 1st, 2025 through June 30, 2026, unless extended in writing by all parties.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the ayes have it. Duncan is also looking for a motion to accept the amendments to the job description.
Yes,
I'll move the acceptance of amendments to the job description
For assessor services,
for assessor services.
for assessor level 1.
assessor level
Yeah.
1, sure.
Second,
All right, further discussion, motion second, further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it, and your third one, just to
uh,
authorize a signature authority.
authorizing signature authority, and I guess we could combine. Signing the interlocal agreement and the offer of employment letter. As one authorization.
Can somebody make a motion?
I move that Duncan Hastings or the town administrator do that.
Sign the interlocal agreement
That's good.
and
Yes.
the,
And I'll
The offer of employment.
and the offer of employment.
second.
Okay, motion second, further discussion,
The only thing I would. Throw out there is I'm happy to do it, but I don't want. If I can take it off your plate and make your job a little bit easier, I'm happy to do that, but I don't want it to be.
you do a lot of work still. I read everything and I go, holy cow, how many hours are we getting for free out of this guy?
It's hard to replace when the.
Certainly, thank you very much. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Abstain.
and the ayes have it. Thank you very much for the iteration and on that.
Yeah, thanks, and I have to say, participating with those 5 other communities, it's a really good example of. Cooperation between municipal entities and.
You know, it's funny to me that LCPC couldn't make it. Whole, I guess, remember, didn't we go to them to start? And there was a huge grind and everything.
Probably more expensive, wasn't it?
They were looking for a fairly hefty admin fee to make it all
Yeah.
happen. Which if I were to charge you for the hours I put in, would probably be close to what
You
else
would be,
would have charged, but that's that volunteer thing, right?
Can't get some
Yeah.
bargain out of you.
Next up. Adrian. The floor is yours for committee restructuring meeting summary and recommendations.
Yeah, so last Wednesday, we had a meeting with most of the chairs and co-chairs of all the committees and commissions and anyone from the public that wanted to attend or anyone else from different committees, parts of committees that wanted to come. So it was really great. It was really collaborative. We it was really hands-on where we had post-its hanging everywhere. And the goal was to restructure our committees and to also prioritize all the projects and big ideas that committees and commissions would like to get funding for and put those in order. So I have a lot to present on that, and I've been out of town the end of the week and this weekend, so I haven't been able to compile all that yet. But I'd like to carve out a good chunk of a next meeting or the meeting after to go over the results of that. Because they, like I said, they have gave us some good recommendations on restructuring committees and projects to
That's a good
take a look
planning
at.
meeting topic.
16.
Board cool with that?
Sure.
And this is.
This is
like
the next item.
The next item, okay.
Mhm.
But I think a moment to thank Adrian for organizing and putting that on. There was probably 35 or 50 people. There was a lot of people here.
Mhm.
I don't think they were 50.
It's 49 people. And, but it was really cool to see the community come together and kind of challenge current structure, but make sure old priorities were coming forward to a new, and that was what just sitting back and watching that was really cool to see, and thank you. You had BCRD came and helped facilitate and watch, and Peter was there helping, and we had local towns, Fletcher came to observe the process as well.
Mhm.
So it was a really amazing day and a pretty cool. I don't know, it was way outside the box, and it was really fun to do. So thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
glad we did that.
A lot of energy that night. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you both for your help on that too.
Ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, committee communication checklist and manual or
Yeah, I don't know yet if it's a manual or checklist. It could be considered both, maybe. This came out of, I think, our last meeting. It was Lois's idea. For committees and commissions to have a kind of checklist or manual guide to who they should reach out to for agenda postings and posting the minutes, updating portions of the website for their committees, getting on the select board agenda, any like budget or finance questions, and just like kind of laying out that we're separate from the village to not cause any confusion. So I put this together. This is just a draft. Did they have it out there, Tom?
I have 4 extra copies.
Oh, okay, cool.
Does anyone else need one?
So yeah, so if we wanted to look at this again next meeting after people give me any feedback and edits, so open to hearing anything to add or edit. So just send me any feedback you want and I'll include that.
Did you email us this?
I didn't email, I can email it. Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so we can mull this over, take a look at it, give our
Yeah.
feedback. Okay,
I
Cool.
finished it like 10 minutes before the meeting.
Yep.
It would be great if you can. email.
Yeah, I will.
Absolutely.
I will, I can email it right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Um,
Next up, Ted Alexander welcomes an RFP. Tom?
So we only received one bid response. That was from, it's actually in the packet. It was in the very last page, that was from Back 40 Builders. It was for $16,875. which was $4,000 ahead of. More than what the rail trail committee. Expected, you know, they had budgeted 12,800, and so 16,875 was more. I did speak to Doug Moldy, and now I'm right before the meeting, and now I'm emailing with Mary Lou and Janice. And they said, we do have enough funds to add an extra 4,000 to this project, but it might affect what we have to spend on other items. Can you please ask the select board to approve this expenditure pending approval of the rail trail committee? So they would like to take this to the rail trail committee, but they don't want to delay the project. So if you could approve this and then the rail trail denies it, be okay with that. So they want to move forward with this bid, but they also want to run it. They want to run the whole big picture of having to spend $4,000 from another project on this.
Yeah,
So the 4,000 would, the 4,000 overage on this would reduce other projects that they currently have.
yeah.
Yeah,
Community foundation.
that's right. So this is coming from money from the Eddie Gale fund or Eddie Gale. That was from the phone call today. I'm not unfamiliar with that grant. And Vermont Community Foundation, there's a 50% match on the grant to do this, which means we're responsible for $8,440 ish. And that will come out of the $20,000 that probably came for BCF or that Eddie Gale fund. And so they have the money to do it, so it's gonna be no match for the town, but it just means that another project they planned on, say the bike charging or something, you know, these other projects they presented on a month ago just might not come to fruition, or might be altered to a smaller project, but they would like to move forward with this one.
Mhm.
And the items that are listed here are the items that were part of the RFP. He's betting on the project that they wanted done.
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, this RFP was put out by Randall, and I only received the responses, but I did not. I will review. I have to look at the original RFP, and I haven't taken a good look at that, and I should take it and compare it to this to make sure there's no additional items. But I think that's a really good point. This was it was Randall's RFP, and all questions went back to him. And I just got this today, so I did not get a chance to look at the original RFP.
Mhm.
Is Doug's, I know he was the chair. I thought he had.
He's not the
Dude.
chair anymore, but.
He knows the most about it.
Yeah.
That's why I called him, and then I
I
emailed
thought he
Mary.
did too.
Yeah, I emailed Mary Lou and Jan tonight and just said, hey, give me your 2 cents. Are you okay with this? It's way over. And that's when Mary Lou wrote back.
Mhm. Yeah, so they might just pull it from a different grant and shift things around, yeah.
Yeah, I think just another project would be smaller, but I think the rail trail wants, I think they want to meet with the whole, but they don't want to make that decision unanimously. They would like to make the decision with the rail trail committee for the larger picture of all the projects that they have planned. Because although they feel this is important, it might reduce another project, and so.
Or the alternative would be to reduce the scope of work that he's bid on.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. That's another great point, yes.
So our motion is to accept this bid pending
The rail trails.
the rail trail committee's approval.
Yeah, and I'm gonna write an email to Mary Lou and Jan that the rail trail committee should look at reducing the scope of work and to present what other projects might be reduced from what they presented a month ago. Does that seem?
Mhm.
Correct.
So your motion would be to approve the RP contingent on rail
Contingent
trail committee
on the rail trail
review and approval.
committee's review.
Did
and
you
approval.
make the motion?
Well,
You're
kind of-
asking about
I
it.
kind of muttered something.
Because if that was your motion, I'd second.
Okay,
Well, what-
that was my motion.
Okay, Donna, what was Peter's motion?
To accept the bid, not billing what the bid is, contingent on approval by the rail trail committee.
Improvements to that habits in open zone.
Okay. That was your motion,
Yeah, sounds like it.
and you seconded
And I
that.
seconded it.
Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
And the ayes have it. We spent a lot of money on that building.
Oh, way too much.
Gotta be up over $100,000 by
Way
now.
too much in that little dinky building.
Yeah.
Ask if we could start like renting out the vending area for people
If they're in
to
baseball games.
sell
A
things.
little mini Taj Mahal.
Yep.
I just wanna say the town has not expended any.
Wrong, actually, we spent $5,000 of town money on it in 2021.
Did you?
Yep.
What?
Ed Alexander's. I have to look back to my email. Nat had spoken with the Alexander family and they were. Hoping that the town could include
Oh,
some
that's
town
right.
fund.
It
It
was-
was in the budget at town meeting. I don't think we had town meeting that year, but we had an information meeting.
Mr. Chair, it also should be noted that I have nothing against that building, it's just we didn't have two bids.
Yep.
And you know, I'm a stickler for more than one bid.
Certainly. Anything on old business? Did I cut you off?
No, it's just gonna pull Mike's leg, that's it.
If there's nothing on old business, we have two more additions. One is for. Hi, Scott.
I actually had a question on old business, if that's okay.
Sure.
That was the, I'm so confused listening to you guys, I've lost my.
Sure, we.
The, bio property plan, where are we? Any of that?
So I think we're still waiting to see what properties. Got to put in the cart, ahead of the horse to start planning and property you don't own.
Yep.
And at any time, a property owner can withdraw their application to the buyout. We are expecting deeds to start being transferred probably within 6 months, maybe a little longer. And so once there's properties are in hand, then I think probably the board would either delegate board members or ask a subcommittee to then. Restart researching hard what we can and can't do. I'm sure the laws will be pretty well defined for those properties. But I think before we do anything, we have to know what's actually coming and what isn't. And I think we should know soon, probably hopefully by Christmas.
So Scott, also just. You may or may not know this, but BEM has approved. 16 total buyouts, not including. The Pomeroy property. So am I correct on that?
Yeah,
BEM
actually-
has approved for 16.
That's correct, yeah, and the only reason Palmer was not is because of not an HMGP, it was a sweat current,
Right.
but yeah.
Right, it's a different funding.
A different stream, different path, if you will.
Right.
But so, and the appraisals have begun, some have already even taken place, so things are moving very quick. On the buyout properties, but. We should know soon, but as soon as those, I think are the real. The proof of the pudding, right, is that when the number comes back of what people are going to receive, is gonna be when those decisions are made, whether or not they move forward or not. Depending on what the appraisal amount is.
And just out of curiosity, I'm sure somebody knows this, for the landowners that own some of these buildings that have been vacated, are they still paying full property tax on those properties?
I think some of them have been reduced already based on the condition and some have not. Is that correct, Rosemary? That's my understanding.
Depreciated.
And I know the assessor has been given the directive to review all of those for that rate.
The assessor certainly did reduce some of those, and I think some of those. People also grieved and got lower assessments as well.
Thanks.
Can I ask you a question, Scott?
Okay.
I know you mentioned about a flood training to me. Could you remind me again where I could take that? It's off topic, but.
Yeah,
but-
ICS training, that's
That's
it, yeah.
Okay,
BEM has an online course just from the 100 level.
yeah,
It's just enough to get.
VEM, Vermont Emergency
Okay.
Management.
Yeah, sorry,
okay,
ex-government guy, lots of acronyms, sorry.
you good.
You
Yeah,
government
they have an online
employees.
class and then you can bump it up from there depending on what.
Okay. Thank you.
We good?
One other old business thing, Tom sent out the draft RFP for cemetery maintenance, did that actually go out?
It is, so I sent it direct to the one person I copied you on the email for questions. And then I put it up on the website and I have not touched base with you. I want to reach out to the Old Cemetery Association for a list of known. It's such specialized work. I would like to do direct requests to everybody in the business because it's. There's not a lot of stone maintenance people in the industry, so.
There's two I can think of right off the top of the head, Jeff Panona, I think he's Champlain Monuments. Out of St. Albans area, I know he does a lot of cemetery maintenance work. And I guess the other one we could send it to is the guy that used to do it,
It's more, the one in Morrisville,
yeah.
Thanks.
Like monuments, but they aren't plague anymore, not the,
And they do historic preservation as well.
yeah, what's that?
They did work for us.
Yes, yeah, John Clegg, yeah, Brenda Clegg is the owner in Wolcott, right?
Okay,
But I don't think it's Clegg Mon, it used to be Clegg Monuments, but I think it's a different
Yeah, I think,
company now.
request away.
I'll reach out.
And you guys can figure out the name outside the meeting.
Yeah, everybody was okay with the way the RFP was structured though, so because nobody screamed, yelling.
No, I think I was the only one probably. Right,
I'll use them to make sure I was at you approved it first.
that's. But it was a short time. I don't know. Time in my day that.
And I was headed fishing.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Okay, next up, we have two, one is Du Bois and King envisioning contract, that was an addition by Tom. I believe you're looking for a signature authorization.
So this was, I emailed this to you guys Saturday morning. And yeah, this is make 3-dimension or kind of make renderings of any project so that the public can have a visualization of any what a new downtown may look like. The price is $6,400. 5,000 of that was already applied for and received. Seth came to, I think, in September or August. And so we have the $5,000 for small grants for small growth, and then the additional, the gap of 1,400, the Vermont Community Foundation said that they will meet that gap for us, so it'd be zero mat to do this project for the town.
What are the board's thoughts?
In looking at the deliverables. This comment is kind of a combination comment, but. I had a conversation with Tasha Wallace at LCPC and they're getting kind of hammered. With questions from and requests for services from the Reimagine Johnson groups,
Task forces.
task forces, and they can't really deal with those. So is there a way to try and blend? And there, that's, I can say it's been one of my concerns all along is there's not a lot of communication between this board and the groups out there. As an example, I heard anecdotally that members of the economic group communicated directly with Ernie Parlow and asked him not to involve himself with the buyout.
That wasn't that group. That was a different resident. That wasn't it. That's not in the group. But I hear you though.
I can only tell you what I was told, and if that's the case, that's great. But in any case, no group really should be in direct communication with Ernie Parlow, in my opinion. Telling him or asking him not to take the buyout because the town is going to do something different with the property. And that's my understanding about having that shouldn't happen without first coming, without some communication with us. So I guess what I'm wondering is there going to be an attempt to try and bring ideas from Reimagine Johnson into this process. In a visioning way that,
I believe this
So
is,
if I can speak to that quickly. The planning commission has been in touch with us on EC quite a bit on this, and this is sort of a continuation of the Reimagine Johnson effort. We're all kind of aiming at the same thing. This is another opportunity to continue that dialogue. So there'll be a series of public meetings, everybody be invited. Take out a couple of properties, talk about what's the best, let's say, FEMA use of Sterling Market property, what's the best non-FEMA use of Sterling Market property. Whatever the group comes up with, then there'll be some graphic depiction as part of the deliverables to help the public kind of envision what might be. This is a small grant. This is not redirecting the Reimagine Johnson effort or taking it over at all. This is a tiny kind of visualization effort of that. That makes sense?
it does, you know. Yeah, I guess I said I was kind of mixing and matching stuff here, I guess. Bringing two concerns, one is I think this is a good idea and value the process, but I also wanna. Try and bring the process to some sort of. Logical nexus where. This board and Reimagine Johnson folks aren't working at cross purposes with each other. And that's been a concern of mine all along.
Adrian will solve that in 2 weeks.
Well, that's what kind of came out of that's why was the part of the intention of the committee restructuring meeting, so. Yeah,
they had like the existing committees, and part of the existing committees group were also like the Reimagine Johnson groups. And how do their priorities fit into existing committees' needs and what? So that was what was so valuable about it, is it kind of started that process of blending. You know, one thing that this board has talked about, but we have never put it on the schedule, is maybe getting a meeting with all 5 Reimagine Johnson groups and just say, what do you need from the select board and what are you planning to do? And then just knowing that would kind of help. Those cross purposes, you know, just having better communication between, and or maybe it's getting 2 select board members to each one of those groups so they can listen in there and make so it's easy. But I think it doesn't matter how it happens, but I think that process needs to get there, you know. So instead of running parallel, it's probably time to start.
Yeah, great idea. We can figure out how to fit it into one of our work sessions.
I think we talked about fitting it into a work session.
Yeah.
That was a slight tangent on, does the board want to approve this
I think this is great, it'll
contract?
give some.
Although, sorry,
There you go.
you were talking about the deliverables and then. Went into the task, but do you have an issue with the deliverables specifically, or was it a clarifying question?
No, it was more a question of clarification of what. How the process might work and how we might. Wrap the whole concept up into. One vision process.
Sorry,
No, you're good. I think that this looks wonderful, and. Yeah, like coming from the lens of like graphic design. Like view on it, it looks like they'll provide a lot for the cost of the grant. Yeah, I think it's worth it.
so you would like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we. I'll find here. That we approve. The grants for this.
We have-
I don't know how to form the motion, but.
Delegated signature.
Huh?
And
I was
delegate.
gonna say, who do you want to
Oh.
sign it?
That we delegate the signature to for Tom to sign.
The motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Yeah, ayes have it. Next up was another addition. At the beginning for the sheriff's contract. It's did come in late, but
Yeah,
comment verified. It met the budgeted amount, and the language wasn't different than previous year's contracts.
We also have one more meeting if you wanna table that. It just, I wanted to give you the option to take it on tonight.
I would like there to be language in this contract that somewhat reflects the language with the NEMS contract. On ownership upon termination. Just one board member.
Sounds like a good idea.
The exact verbiage is not in my head.
So is the dispatch contract in here too?
There's two separate contracts.
Yeah, there's communication and patrol.
Okay. Well, I totally concur with you, this is a contract between three towns, Johnson, Woonsocket, and Hyde Park. Trying to make a change to the draft contract at this late date.
It's tough and they don't, these are independent contracts.
They are.
You know,
yeah,
NEMS gets a signature from all contract towns. One,
Yeah,
that's why Scott goes to all of them. Select board meetings at that
Yeah.
time of year.
uh,
Maybe it's food for thought for future years.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, Roger's gonna retire and in any given year. It's possible that he doesn't get re-elected this year. So I think long term. We pay a lot of money for law enforcement services and. But my own personal belief is we should be rethinking about. Might be one of those countywide things that we could do better, cheaper with more. More people involved, then it wouldn't be a contract that looks anything like this. Well, having said all that, I would advocate signing this contract tonight and being done with it. And then having a broader discussion about law enforcement services.
If you're advocating, motion away.
I move that we sign the contract that's in our packet. For communications and patrol.
And the patrol amount is 569,338. With the communications amount being 75,464. Correct?
That's part of my motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, is there further discussion? Tom, you look like you had something you wanted to say?
Oh, I was just gonna tell Donna that it's in the packet, but didn't even make that contact, so she's on her autopilot.
Yeah, I think that is.
Okay. I guess if there's no further discussion,
How did the police protection or the patrol on School Street turn out?
I met with them today about that, this morning, and they're supposed to put the speed card out. If it's not today, it should be tomorrow.
Yeah, we didn't ask for a speed card. We wanted patrol.
We asked for I was under the impression, sorry. If I misheard, but I was under the impression we wanted the speed card. We wanted 7 days a week for 2 weeks, 2 hours a day. So,
I think we wanted both.
yeah.
Yes, but I mean, I was
The
just
speed
concerned
card.
about the patrol. I could care less about the speed card. I think the patrol is gonna really make a difference.
Yeah, so, I mean, I will,
They didn't balk at that?
no.
Good.
He did mention that sometimes they can't get there because, an example he had is they had a drug related DUI today, and every time there's a drug related incident, it usually takes an officer 4 to 5 hours out of patrol to process those more complicated situations and so when those happen, that takes the priority over patrol.
Well, they still could give 14 days.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be straight 2 weeks. If they're short 1 or 2 days, they can make it up at the end. They just need to be told that. But just because they get a day off, doesn't mean they don't have to go it.
further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay.
All those opposed?
Okay, no,
And
sorry,
the ayes have
I'm
it.
out of it. Like,
Why did you not want to sign the contract?
I just feel like I didn't have enough time to look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, you've never seen one.
sign
Yeah.
next to Peter. Leave Mike's spot, on sign where his name goes.
Got
Nobody
the
upset.
same
Do
contract.
you have a signature, a copy for us?
It's going
Oh.
to Peter right now, and when Peter finishes, he'll hand it back, we'll pass it.
I think that's the same language and then
Okay,
drafted.
next up. Is. An executive session for negotiations. Of securing. Real estate or lease options. And after that, we have another executive session, and I don't believe that there will be. Any motions coming out of either of those. Thank you all.
Thanks all.
So as of right now, I would entertain. A motion to go into executive session. You wanna handle that? Somebody wanna handle that?
Move executive session. For negotiating or securing a real estate purchase or lease options in accordance with 1 BSA. 31382. How'd they do that, Tom?
Very good.
Can we make a motion?
I wanted
for
to do both,
Both?
as well as,
As well as an executive session for employment evaluation in accordance with 1 BSA 313A3.
at some point during the executive session, Rosemary and Tom will leave. Just to be clear to the public.
At some point.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. The board is entering executive session at 8:22.